An American engine devours gasoline like a hungry dinosaur and yet leads global sales charts. For European logic, this is a systemic error. For a driver in Texas, it is an indispensable power tool. While half the world is obsessed with every drop of fuel, the other celebrates the roar of a V8 at 15 liters per 100. It is not just a lack of efficiency, it is a philosophy of brute force against which modern engineering cannot compete. Today we decipher the 14 reasons for this paradox. Let's go. Reason 14. Large engines, traditional and cultural. We start with reason number 14, and it is fundamental to understanding everything else. In America, the philosophy of the large engine, whether a V8 or a V6, is a cultural tradition rooted in decades of automotive history. We are talking about pure power, immediate torque, and throttle response that pins you against the seat. While Europe embraces small and efficient four-cylinder turbo engines, Americans prefer real displacement. They do not want technological tricks, they want displacement. V8 engines of 5 liters, 6 liters, up to 7 liters are completely normal in the American market. Naturally aspirated engines that deliver power in a linear and predictable way. No turbo lag, no complicated technology that fails at 80,000 kilometers. You just step on the accelerator and feel all the force immediately. The culture of hot rods, muscle cars, and NASCAR is deeply rooted in the American automotive DNA. A large engine is not a luxury or a whim. It is a symbol of freedom and power. Fuel consumption is simply the price you pay for the experience, and Americans are willing to pay it. An engineer from Detroit explained to me once, "We design for emotions. Europeans design for efficiency. Our customers want to feel the power when they step on the gas, not calculate how many liters per kilometer they are saving." And that philosophy is reflected in every vehicle that leaves American factories. Additionally, there is a practical aspect that many Europeans do not consider. A large engine working at low revolutions lasts longer than a small engine constantly forced at high revolutions. Americans value longevity and mechanical simplicity as much as power. Reason 13. Historically cheap gasoline in the United States. The price of gasoline in America is a fraction of what it costs in Europe, and this completely changes the economic equation. An American pays approximately $1.20 per litre, while a European pays €3 per litre or more. We are talking about more than double the price. The mathematics is brutally simple. Consuming 15 litres per every 100 kilometres in the United States is more economical in absolute terms than consuming 8 litres in Europe. The relative costs are completely different, and this affects every purchase decision. Historically, gasoline has been cheap in America for decades. Energy policies favour domestic production, refineries are efficient, and taxes on fuel are low. European governments, on the other hand, charge very high taxes on gasoline to fund infrastructure and discourage consumption. In America, that philosophy does not exist. The American consumer does not feel the economic urgency to buy an efficient vehicle. Filling a 50-litre tank costs $60. The same tank in Europe costs €150. That brutal difference changes everything in the psychology of buying. When gasoline is cheap, fuel efficiency takes a back seat. What is important is capacity, comfort, space. An American can fill the tank of his pickup 2 times per week and still spend less on fuel monthly than a European filling his small diesel 1 time per week. Reason 12. Infrastructure. Ubiquitous service stations. In America, there is a service station on every corner, literally. You can drive along any highway, freeway, or rural road and you will find gas stations at regular intervals. The availability of fuel is never ever a problem. On long distances on interstate highways, gas stations are so abundant that planning for refueling is unnecessary. You simply stop when the tank is half empty, fill up, and continue. There is no stress, there is no anxiety. The range anxiety that obsesses European drivers simply does not exist in America. American pickups have tanks of 100 liters or more, with a range of 600 kilometers in the city and 800 on the highway. Europeans design cars with small tanks of 40 or 50 liters, limited range, and they have to carefully calculate where the next gas station is. The American road trip culture is built on this reality. Long trips by road crossing entire states. A large tank and high consumption is not a problem, it is an advantage. Fewer stops, more comfort. Stopping for gas is part of the experience, an opportunity to stretch your legs, buy snacks, and continue. In Europe, every trip is planned meticulously because charging or fuel stations are scarcer, especially in rural areas. In America, that concern simply does not exist. You can drive from New York to Los Angeles and you will never be more than 50 kilometers from a gas station. Reason 11. Vehicles designed to tow and work. American pickups and SUVs are designed from scratch for real work, not to pose on Instagram. We are talking about towing 5,000 kilograms regularly, huge campers, large boats, construction equipment, loaded trailers. It is not optional, it is not occasional. It is the primary purpose of the vehicle. A large engine, a robust transmission, and a reinforced suspension are not luxuries. They are absolute necessities. Fuel consumption is simply an inevitable side effect of work capacity. In Europe, a commercial van is small, diesel, and efficient, designed for light loads and short distances. In America, a pickup is V8 gasoline and powerful, designed for heavy loads and long distances. Torque at low revolutions is absolutely critical for towing safely and efficiently. An American V8 generates 600 Newton-meters at only 2,000 revolutions per minute. A European four-cylinder turbo needs 4,000 revolutions per minute to deliver similar torque. For real work, day after day, the large engine wins for durability and ease of use. The body-on-frame construction, robust axles, and commercial-grade components mean that these pickups are durable work tools that last 300,000 kilometers or more. Fuel consumption is a necessary investment in capacity and durability. I have met contractors who tow heavy construction equipment 6 days a week. For them, a pickup that consumes 15 liters but can work for a decade without major problems is infinitely more valuable than an efficient vehicle that cannot do the job or that fails at 100,000 kilometers. Reason 10. Dimensions. Large vehicles and spaces. American cars are simply larger and heavier than their European counterparts. It is not an exaggeration, it is a measurable and dramatic difference. An American sedan has the physical size of a European SUV. An American pickup has the size of a 2-ton European commercial truck. Weight directly affects fuel consumption according to the laws of physics. A Ford F-150 in its standard configuration weighs 2,300 kilograms. A Toyota Hilux, considered large in Europe, weighs 1,800 kilograms. 500 kilograms of difference translate directly into additional liters of fuel consumed every 100 kilometers. There is no way to avoid it. Interior space is an absolute priority in American design. A very wide cabin where 3 large adults can sit comfortably in the back seat. Huge seats with electric adjustments in all directions. Gigantic trunks that can swallow the luggage of a family of 6 people for 2 weeks of vacation. Europeans sacrifice space for efficiency and compact design. Americans sacrifice efficiency for comfort and practicality. American roads are wide, parking lots are large, residential garages are spacious. Everything in the physical infrastructure allows and encourages large vehicles. Europeans are limited by narrow medieval streets, tiny parking lots, and garages that barely fit a small car. Americans do not have these physical restrictions. Reason 9. Transmissions optimized for power, not efficiency. American transmissions historically are automatic with 4, 5, or 6 speeds, with long ratios optimized for acceleration and power. European ones are 8, 9, or even 10 speeds meticulously optimized for fuel consumption. The traditional torque converter used in American transmissions is smooth and comfortable, providing imperceptible shifts and proven durability. But it is not as efficient as the European dual clutch. The American priority is driving comfort and long-term durability. The European one is fuel efficiency measured to the last milliliter. This is changing in recent generations. Ford developed a 10-speed transmission, GM has 9 speeds, but even these modern transmissions are calibrated differently. They are designed to deliver smooth power and the American driving feel. A European transmission with the same technical specifications would be calibrated aggressively for economy, with early shifts and constant searching for the highest possible gear. Transmission ratios reflect different cultural philosophies. An American pickup on the highway at 120 kilometers per hour has the engine turning at 2,000 revolutions per minute, comfortable and silent. An equivalent European vehicle would have the engine at 3,000 revolutions per minute, technically more efficient but noisier and less refined. Reason 8. Aerodynamics sacrificed for imposing design. American pickups are essentially vertical boxes with huge grilles and giant mirrors. The aerodynamic coefficient is comparable to a flying brick, CX 0.45 or 0.50 in the best case. A modern European sedan has 0.25 to 0.28. The difference is brutal. American design prioritizes intimidating presence, robust appearance, and practical functionality over aerodynamic efficiency. European design follows the principle that form follows efficiency. American design follows the principle that form follows attitude and capacity. The huge front grille serves a real function, cooling the large engine that generates a lot of heat. But it is also deeply American aggressive aesthetics. Side mirrors the size of dinner plates are necessary to see the trailer, but they completely ruin the aerodynamics. The open bed of the pickup is literally the worst possible aerodynamic nightmare, capturing air and creating massive turbulence. Every manufacturer knows exactly how much this terrible aerodynamics costs. Engineers calculate that consumption increases between 20 and 30% at highway speed compared to an optimized aerodynamic design. And they accept the sacrifice consciously because they know their customers value other things. The American consumer buys for imposing appearance and work capacity. Aerodynamics is in third or fourth place of priorities. The European buys for efficiency and operating costs. Aerodynamics is a top priority from the first sketch of the design. We reach the middle of the 14 reasons why American cars consume so much fuel and yet continue to sell by the millions every year. The next 7 reasons delve into cultural, economic, and technical aspects that explain this fascinating paradox. From government regulations to deep consumer psychology, you will understand why American logic is fundamentally different from European logic. We continue. Reason 7. Less strict CAFE regulations by categories. Here we enter political and regulatory territory. Corporate average fuel economy, known as CAFE, regulates the average fuel consumption of a manufacturer's entire fleet. But here is the legal trick. Pickups and SUVs have a separate classification with significantly more relaxed standards than passenger cars. A vehicle classified as work or commercial is exempt from the strictest regulations. Manufacturers cleverly take advantage of this technical and legal classification to sell pickups with high consumption without facing financial penalties. It is completely legal and manufacturers exploit it to the maximum. In Europe, Colorado II and emissions regulations apply to absolutely all vehicles without exceptions or special categories. If a manufacturer exceeds the established limit, it pays million-dollar fines that can destroy the profit margins of the entire European operation. In America, the regulation structurally allows large vehicles with high consumption to exist and prosper legally. The lobby of the American automotive industry is extraordinarily powerful in Washington. It aggressively protects pickups and SUVs from regulations that would directly threaten sales and profits. In Europe, environmental pressure from citizens and government policy are strict. There are no exceptions, there are no special categories, there are no loopholes. Reason 6. Hybrid and electric technology, slow adoption. American manufacturers took entire decades to seriously adopt hybridization and electrification. Europe and Japan moved significantly ahead. The revolutionary Toyota Prius came out in 1997. In America, Ford had a genuinely serious hybrid only in 2005, 8 years later. American culture has a historical distrust of unproven new technology and a strong preference for traditional battle-proven engines. The traditional gasoline V8 works, it is reliable, it is understood by any mechanic. Why change to something complicated and potentially problematic? In Europe, strict government regulations forced innovation and the rapid adoption of new technologies. The electric charging infrastructure in America even today is significantly limited compared to Europe or China. Range anxiety is absolutely real, especially in a country where driving 300 kilometers to visit family is common. Electric pickups promise impressive capabilities but deliver disappointing results. When they are towing a real load, the range collapses dramatically to 200 kilometers or less. The change is finally coming. Ford F-150 Lightning, Ram Electric, Chevrolet Silverado EV. American manufacturers are investing billions in electrification, but consumer adoption is slow and cautious. The average American consumer is fundamentally conservative in large purchase decisions. They prefer the known and reliable, gasoline that always works over electric that still feels experimental and risky. Reason 5. Much greater average distances and trips. The average American drives approximately 20,000 kilometers per year. The average European drives 12,000 kilometers. That difference of 8,000 kilometers annually is huge and reflects fundamentally different geographical realities. The American travels long distances daily as part of normal life. A commute of 50 kilometers one way is completely common. In Europe, 15 kilometers is considered a long commute. The geography of America is vast in a way that Europeans genuinely do not understand. Cities separated by hundreds of kilometers, extreme suburbanization where living 60 kilometers from work is normal and accepted. The typical European lives relatively close to everything, and public transport is a viable option for many trips. In America, the car is frequently the only practical option. A daily work trip of 80 kilometers round trip is completely common in Texas, California, or Florida. For a European, that is unsustainable madness. For an American, it is simply daily reality. When you drive those distances daily, absolute fuel efficiency matters less than comfort, space, and reliability. The American mentality values time as the most precious resource. The comfort of the trip, having space, being able to listen to music on a premium sound system, matters more than saving 3 liters of fuel. The European mentality recognizes that space is limited, resources are finite, every liter saved matters. The American one operates from a mentality of abundance. Space is effectively infinite. Consumption is relative and acceptable. Reason 4. Culture of individualism. Vehicle as personal expression. In America, the car is not simply transport. It is a fundamental extension of your personality, a public statement of who you are, what you value, what you have achieved. In Europe, the car is predominantly a practical transport tool to go from point A to point B efficiently. A huge pickup lifted with 40-inch tires for a European says, you are compensating for something, probably masculine insecurities. For an American, especially in rural or suburban areas, it says, I work hard, I am capable, I value independence and freedom, or simply, I have the economic freedom to choose what I want, and I chose this. Modifications and personalization are deep American culture. Lift kits that raise the suspension, huge tires, noisy aftermarket exhausts, vinyl wraps, infinite accessories. Fuel consumption increases with each modification, but the owner is genuinely proud of the result. In Europe, significantly modifying the car is rare. It is heavily regulated, and it is illegal in many cases without complicated approvals. The vehicle is a visible symbol of success in American culture. Big house, big car, probably a big boat too. In Europe, the symbol of sophisticated success is frequently an efficient and small car like a premium Mini Cooper, or a Tesla that demonstrates environmental awareness and economic success simultaneously. Reason 3. Used market retains value in pickups and SUVs. An American pickup retains its resale value better than practically any other type of vehicle on the market. A 5-year-old Ford F-150 typically retains approximately 60% of its original value. An equivalent European sedan retains perhaps 40% if it is lucky. That difference of 20 percentage points is economically massive. The constant and strong demand for used pickups comes from multiple segments. Construction workers who need reliable tools, farmers and ranchers who require work capacity, outdoor enthusiasts who value off-road capability. Everyone buys used pickups specifically to work. Fuel consumption is a secondary consideration. Capacity, durability, and reliability are the primary decision factors. The slow depreciation means that buying a new pickup is a relatively smart financial investment. If you buy a new pickup for $50,000 and sell it in 5 years for $30,000, you lost $20,000, 40%. With an equivalent European sedan, you easily lose 60% or more of the value, a loss of $30,000 in the same period. The robust resale market keeps prices high even for vehicles with high mileage, and this perpetuates the virtuous cycle of buying new and used pickups. Fuel consumption simply is not a significant decision factor at the time of purchase because the resale value compensates for any additional fuel cost during ownership. Reason 2. Profit margins. Manufacturers make fortunes with pickups. An American manufacturer earns between $15,000 and $20,000 of pure profit for every pickup sold. In contrast, a compact sedan generates approximately $3,000 of profit. The difference is 5 to 7 times more profit per unit. Corporate mathematics is brutally simple and clear. Detroit absolutely prioritizes pickups and SUVs in development, marketing, and production. Massive marketing and omnipresent advertising are focused almost exclusively on high-profit vehicles. Fuel consumption is a completely accepted externality in the search to maximize corporate profit. Dealers have massive incentives to push pickups. Significantly higher commissions per sale, longer financing that generates more interest, accessories, and add-ons that multiply profits. The average consumer ends up buying more vehicle than they really need and paying significantly more than they should. The European buys what they need based on practical use. The American buys what they want based on desire and aspiration, and the manufacturer aggressively encourages that behavior. The political lobby in Washington fiercely protects pickups. Favorable regulations, indirect subsidies through commercial vehicle classifications, resistance to stricter efficiency standards. The American automotive industry is literally built on the massive profits of pickups and SUVs. Fundamentally changing the business model would economically collapse entire regions of Michigan, Ohio, and other manufacturing states. Reason 1. American cultural identity, freedom of choice. And we finally reach the number one reason, the deepest and most fundamental. At the absolute heart of this paradox is the American cultural identity, the freedom to choose and consume exactly what you want without the government telling you what to do. The European government regulates, restricts, guides with a firm hand. The American insists that individual freedom outweighs collective efficiency. The pickup is not just a vehicle in America, it is a powerful symbol of the historical American frontier, of the pioneer who conquered a continent, of the independent spirit that rejects external authority. It is the freedom to go where you want, do what you want, without asking permission from anyone. A European genuinely does not understand it because it is not encoded in their historical cultural DNA in the same way. The high fuel consumption is seen and accepted as the inevitable price of personal freedom. The average American pays it gladly and without resentment. The European sees it as environmental and social irresponsibility. The American sees it as an inalienable right as fundamental as freedom of speech. Government regulations and fuel consumption restrictions are frequently seen as a direct attack on personal freedom in the American mentality. For a European, it is basic environmental and social responsibility. For many Americans, it is unacceptable government intrusion into decisions that should be completely personal. The mentality of abundance versus scarcity is fundamental here. America historically has had abundant natural resources, effectively unlimited geographical space, cheap gasoline derived from massive domestic production. Europe has limited resources, scarce physical space, dependence on expensive imported energy. The European mentality of conservation and efficiency versus the American mentality of consumption and abundance. The cultural clash is inevitable and deep. This number one reason explains why all the logical arguments about efficiency, costs, and environment frequently do not change buying behavior. It is not a purely rational and economic decision. It is a deeply emotional and cultural decision connected to personal identity and fundamental values.